I really struggled to see the good purpose that I was doing, taking care of these critically injured troops. I became really kind of like a robot is the best way to describe it. I lacked emotion. I was like, this guy is like blown in half. Why would he want to live? And I'm helping perpetuate this terrible cycle of this guy's going to get home, and he's going to go through the VA, he's going to get narcotized, and he's going to become just a zombie. He's going to come home to nothing. He's not going to have a good life. I think it was 2015, early 2016. I met a random guy in a bar. Our dogs were sniffing each other, and I'm like, hey man, like what happened to your leg? He's like, it got blown off. And I'm like, okay, like where? He's like, Afghanistan. I'm like, really, where? He's like, Kandahar. I'm like, when? He's like, 2011. Like, when? He's like, May. I'm like, wow. So I know, one of my friends took care of him, or I was on the same plane as him, our paths crossed somehow. And I really started to see that his life wasn't terrible. Will's life was great. He had a great dog. It was awesome. Digger. He has a great girlfriend. He has a good job. He's happy. Like all those fears that I had of these guys coming home and just hating their lives were, they were kind of shattered at that point. I did over about 90 missions, transporting critically injured troops. I did 3 deployments to Afghanistan and took care of about 150 patients on the back of planes. And for the longest time, I just believed that that was all for nothing. And I learned very quickly that I don't get to define what life means. Only the person on the back of that litter gets to define what that is.
We flew missions all over Iraq. We went all the way up to the Turkish border, all the way down to Baghdad and Balad and Tikrit. And I saw and experienced things that I never would have imagined I would experience. And cool things like going in the palace in Balad, in Saddam's palace, and it's all marble and gold, and he had these giant chairs. They're very throne-like with giant murals on the wall that are painted with large weapons. You could call them weapons of mass destruction if you want. But it was just an experience. But then there was also the experience of having to fly one of our battalion commanders to a crash site of one of our crews of 4 for Kiowa Warrior that just a couple of days before had got shot out of the sky by an RPG. And as we were flying and circling around, probably only for about 5 minutes, I reflected on the fact that literally that same flight route we flew the day before, and we just happened to get lucky.
Well, I'm flying around Chicago for 2 hours taxiing for this airplane to land. So he finally lands, and like I say, back then, they didn't come up to the terminal. You had to land out there and had to get off the plane and then walk across the tarmac to go in there. So now we had to change planes because this guy's out of gas. So on the way up to this terminal there, the guy spit on me. My whole outlook in life changed. I said, America turned on me. And this World War II veteran, he comes up to me and goes, stay with me, sonny, wiped all this stuff off my uniform. So now I'm scared, because there was a whole lot of people back here that didn't like Vietnam veterans. So now I'm following this guy. So once we landed in Cincinnati, I got off the plane. I'm right behind him. I'm following him all the way into the thing. My mom and dad were there, and I wanted to get out of the airport as quick as I could. So then it wasn't up to 24 years ago, I didn't say nothing about Vietnam. None of my kids, none of them knew anything what I did. My granddaughter asked me, says, Papa, we're having a Patriots Day at school. I want you to come. I said, Papa, don't do that kind of stuff, hon. Well, if you got granddaughters, they give you them big old cow eyes, you're gonna break down and go.
I was a flight mechanic. I started off with a loadmaster who threw the flares out, but he and I went to training together down in Florida. got to Vietnam, he was on our crew. Every time we would fly, he would break out in hives. And they would last about a week. Every time. He'd be grounded every time we would fly. So finally they sent him back home. And I was the flight mechanic / load master on my crew. We'd take off, I'm monitoring the engine to make sure everything is okay. I would then take let the pilot know I'm going off headset, and I go back to the back and let them know load master's now in the position. It was quite an experience to be part of that program, because even today they have not found a unit that was overrun when we was protecting them. Not a single one.
We were driving around in a section of Mosul called Yarmouk Traffic Circle. It's where MSR Tampa meets it. It's a battle zone. There's no buildings there. Nobody lives there. And while we were driving, it was one of those days where you knew something bad was going to happen because there was no cars out on the road. There was no people anywhere. And so we saw one single taxi driving directly towards us. And we assumed that it was a suicide bomber. And so he stopped. And the vehicle in front of me said, "Hey, pull him over and search him." Okay, search him. Gusto ran off the vehicle first, right before me, and I put my hand on him because I knew he was going to go into that vehicle and just attack that guy, because he was like a pit bull, man. And so I grabbed onto him and I tried to walk him slowly, and then the vehicle spun out and started driving away from us. And Gusto let off 2 rounds. We went up to the car. The guy was alive. I yelled at Gusto. I'm not going to repeat what I said to him here, but I yelled at him. We searched the whole car. There was no weapons in there. Everyone's amped up. Everyone's yelling at each other. We pulled him into a little building. Our doc got out, Doc Welsh. So he puts his blue gloves on, and he starts poking his finger in this guy and trying to find the bullet holes, and he finds 2 bullet holes. And one's in his earlobe. Well, you could see the one in the earlobe, and then the other one was right at his trap, and it was an in-and-out bullet. It was absolutely a clean shot. Like, this guy was barely even bleeding. He was okay. We walk him into the cache. They put this guy down on a gurney, and they start cutting everything off. And one of the doctors said, "Who is this guy? Was he shooting at you? Is this a bad guy? Do we, because if it's an insurgent, if it's somebody that engaged American forces, you have to detain him. You have to actually, tie him to the gurney and make sure that, he can't escape and everything." I said, "No, man, this is a taxi driver. This is a guy that drove. We stopped him, and he drove away from us, and we shot him." And he said, "Man, this is a bad guy." And we said, "No, man, he was a taxi driver." He said, "No, look at his tattoos." And he had a tattoo of Chechnya on his chest, and he had all these little marks of all the Russians that he killed in Chechnya, and he had like 17 other bullet wounds in his body. And to be honest, like, right when the guy took off the shirt, I turned over to Gusto and I gave him a high five. I was like, "You got a terrorist, dude." Yes! Yes!
When you're growing up, your parents tell you who you're going to be. And then I went to Catholic grade school and high school, all boys Catholic high school. They're telling you who you're going to be. You're in the Air Force. They're telling you who you are now. And then when you get out, I realized I didn't know who the hell I was. And so here I am now searching for another identity, another group, another people to belong to. And those words didn't really start resonating with me until like these past few years when I started going back to school. So after that trip, I returned to Cincinnati, did a couple other trips to Asia and Australia. Still kind of searching for what, I don't know. And then when I came back and I started going to school at UC, that's when I started realizing that the field of anthropology, which is a study of people through time, anytime, including now, can be very applicable to studying veterans culture. And so my research has really been focused on veterans and how, as a culture, it's very important. As a subculture, it's very important. How we suffer disproportionately to mental health issues, TBIs, like all these things, and how important it is for us to support each other. And it's these things like the TVCA puts on that are like the most important things. Just being here right now is just extremely important. And I just want to thank you all for being here. Thank you all for doing this, and thank you to the TVCA.